Spyxfamily, Family Portrait. Original concept by Tatsuya Endo. Novel by Aya Yajima. Mission 1. Nature's Classroom. Your forger repeated the unfamiliar phrase and blinked her dark eyes a few times as she set a mug of cocoa on the table. Anya pulled the mug closer to herself and nodded. Yeah, next Friday. We're going up into the mountains for school. Anya handed Yor the information packet she'd received in class. Yor smiled. That does sound like fun. I've never been camping before, Anya stated. Yor's smile faltered as her eyes widened in surprise. It's an overnight trip? Yup. Yor's face tightened as her thoughts suddenly filled with worry. Then, although Yor didn't say a word, her fearful thoughts began to manifest in Anya's mind. Anya Forger was no ordinary young girl. Having been raised as test subject 007 at a shadowy research facility, Anya was a telepath with the ability to read the minds of anyone near her. Anya's only 6 years old, Yor thought. She never stayed overnight anywhere before, much less somewhere as serious as the mountains. I'll need to teach her how to hunt, how to skin an animal. She'll need to know how to fend off a bear attack just in case. The thoughts that flowed into Anya's mind were accompanied by images of Yor killing and butchering a deer, as well as Yor forcing her hands into a bear's mouth to yank out its tongue. In these visions, Anya saw herself observing from nearby, her clothes brightly spattered as if she'd been participating in some sort of local tomato festival. Anya shuddered as alternating waves of chills and sweat slid down her back. She and Mama had very different ideas of what camping was about. Yor Forger, the woman Anya called Mama, was a gentle and beautiful woman who worked at City Hall in Berlin, Ostania's capital city, or at least that's who she appeared to be. In fact, Yor was a talented assassin who killed under the code name Thorn Princess. As a result, Anya had come to accept this sort of disturbing mental imagery as one of the few downsides of being her adopted daughter. She'll need an advanced survival knife and some good thick trapping rope. I'll have to teach her how to tie some knots. Oh, and snarls too. Yor was mumbling out loud now, in a low voice that sounded as if it belonged to someone else entirely. They may be calling it Nature's Classroom, but I really doubt they'll be expected to hunt wild animals, Yor. From the seat to Anya's left, Lord Forger, Papa, to Anya, gently corrected his fake wife between sips of the coffee she had brewed for him. Could I see that packet, please? Lloyd worked as a psychiatrist at Berlin General Hospital, where his patients were often calmed by his soothing manner of speech. But that was merely a cover identity. In truth, Lloyd was the famed spy, Twilight, from the neighboring nations of West Dallas, Ostania's Cold War rival. Lloyd had no idea that his wife was an assassin, nor did Yor expect that her husband was a spy. Neither of them knew that Anya possessed mind-reading abilities either, which made her the only one who knew everyone's secret. Lloyd and Yor's marriage was a complete sham, and even though Yor believed Anya was Lloyd's daughter from a previous marriage, their daughter, Anya, wasn't actually related by blood to either of them. So while the Forgers may have appeared to be thoroughly normal at first glance, their relationship was in fact a rather complicated one, with a great many secrets hidden beneath its carefully maintained veneer of normalcy. The trip is only for 2 days and 1 night. They'll be sleeping in tents, but it says here they'll be furnished with beds, tables, sofas, rugs, and lamps, Lloyd said as he flipped through the packet Yor had handed him. They even have bathrooms with a simple shower room. Is this really how people camp in this day and age? Yor asked, her eyes widening. I don't know about this day and age, Lloyd said, but that seems to be how they camp at Eden Academy. Yor let out a strange chuckle. Anya attended the most prestigious private school of all of Ostania. Eden Academy's students were all incredibly wealthy, many of them the children of the nation's top politicians and business leaders. In order to protect its elite students from those who might attempt to harm or kidnap them, the academy held the camping trip on a wooden mountain owned by the school, and every class would take the camping trip on a different date, so as to maintain a ratio of 1 faculty chaperone for every few students. The school also promised meticulous nighttime security measures. The weather forecast for the weekend is nice and sunny, Lloyd said. It should be quite an enjoyable trip, and besides, there are lots of things that children can't learn in a classroom. That's a relief to hear, Yor said. Her manner was much more relaxed now that she had a better grasp of the situation. Smiling, she headed into the kitchen for snacks. That said, Lloyd looked for the pamphlet to Anya. You'll be cooking for yourself, and it sounds like you'll be learning a lot about stars and the night sky. Make sure you listen carefully to your teachers and try to get along with your classmates, okay? I don't want you getting into any fights. Okie dokie. Anya straightened her posture and gave her father a stiff salute. Lloyd nodded his satisfaction. The great outdoors may provide an opportunity to bury the hatchet with any classmates you've had differences with in the past, Lloyd said. Working side by side has a way of turning past disagreements into mutual camaraderie. Anya blinked. Just make an effort to get along with your classmates on this trip, okay? You already said that, Papa. Even at her age, Anya could clearly see Lloyd's secret spy agenda lurking behind his kind fatherly smile. Lloyd was an agent of WISE, a West Dallas intelligence agency focused on the East, and was currently engaged in a mission called Operation Strix. The mission involved monitoring the activities of the chairman of Estonia's National Unity Party, Donovan Desmond, who was considered a significant threat to the peace between the East and the West. Desmond was an extremely cautious figure who rarely appeared in public, but he did attend the elite get-togethers for parents of Eden Academy students, as both his sons attended the school. That was the whole reason Lloyd had adopted Anya from an orphanage and enrolled her at Eden Academy. Her academic performances so far had made it clear she was nowhere near the Desmond's elite honor student track. However, anticipating this possibility, the ever-meticulous Lloyd had also prepared a backup plan. If Anya could befriend Desmond's younger son Damien, Lloyd could use that relationship as an entry into his target's inner circle. Plan B had hit a rather significant snag, however, when on the first day of school, Anya had punched Damien in the face. If only she could use this opportunity to get even a little bit closer to Damien. His expression may have been impassive, but the words that flowed from Lloyd's mind to Anya's were accompanied by a montage of images of her and Damien enjoying camp activities together, wide smiles gleaming upon their faces. "Leave it to me, Papa," Anya said. "I'll try hard to make friends," she elaborated. At this proclamation, Lloyd's lips widened into a beaming smile. "Wonderful. That's my girl. You can do it, Anya," Lloyd said. "Peace between the East and West may depend on it," he did not add. Yeah, suddenly energized by the request from her beloved Papa, Anya downed her cocoa and dug into the cookies Yor had placed on the table. As she chewed, she worked out the details of Operation Camp Friends. Step 1. Learn all about camping. Step 2. Impress Damien with amazing camping skills. Step 3. Damien is all like, "Oh, Anya, you're the camping master. You should bring your parents to my house, and we'll all go camping together." Step 4. Visit the Desmond with Papa. Step 5. Damien's dad is all like, "Welcome to our home, Mr. Forger." And then Papa's like, "It's good to meet you. You're Desmond. Let's end this war." Step 6. World peace. It was such a flawless plan that Anya was momentarily startled by her own brilliance. She couldn't suppress a smug chuckle as she reached for her cocoa. Just then, Bond, the family dog, wandered over and took a sniff of Anya's cocoa. He let out a bark, his fluffy coat of fur tickling Anya where it brushed against her skin. "No cocoa for you, Bond," Lloyd said to the eager dog. "Cocoa is poison for dogs like you. Why don't I get you some milk instead?" Seeing Lloyd about to get up, Yor quickly leaped to her feet. "Oh, Lloyd, let me get that for you." "No, I can handle that much," Lloyd insisted. "Please sit down and relax." "No, you're the one who should be relaxing. You always work so hard." Ultimately, the doting wife and the doting husband of an entirely fake marriage went into the kitchen together, with Bond plodding after them. Papa, Mama, Bond. Ever since escaping from the facility, Anya had bounced between orphanages and foster homes. But now, she'd finally found some place worth treasuring. And if she could bring about world peace, then they'd all be able to keep happily living here together. "I will try really hard," she vowed, squeezing her small hands tight as she watched her parents pour milk into Bond's bowl together. Young ladies and gentlemen, this marks the start of our 2-day camping into nature's classroom, declared Henry Henderson. "I expect you all to behave with the elegance expected of Eden Academy students." Despite having replaced his usual 3-piece suit with a track outfit for the occasion, the housemaster was looking as elegant as ever. "Yes, Master Henderson," replied the students of his first grade class. They were standing up straight and listening politely, although their attention had been stolen away by the sweeping expansion of nature ahead of them. "Wow, those flowers smell so good. I saw a squirrel. That breeze feels really nice. I wonder what kind of berry that is. I can hear birds chirping." As the happy thoughts of Anya's classmates streamed through her mind, she also found herself fascinated by the rich green plants and clear blue sky that she rarely got to see from her home in the city. All kinds of birds and bugs flitted around the campsite, and the large white tents that the academy had provided were every bit as luxurious as Papa had said they'd be. The beds looked soft and fluffy, and there were even hammocks that swayed gently in the breeze. It was all so exciting, and the more the sights and sounds and smells of the outdoors filled her senses, the further Operation Camp Friends faded from her thoughts. Master Henderson then led the students of his class through their tent assignments, while distributing their cooking utensils and ingredients. The 29 students would be divided into 6 groups of 4 and 1 group of 5, with each group sharing 2 tents. By the time Anya's close friend, Becky Blackbell, called out, "Anya, I'm so glad we got to be in the same tent," Operation Camp Friends had been completely forgotten. "I brought some truffles from this uptown chocolatier to eat in the tent," Becky continued. "They're all wrapped in ribbons and stuff, and look super cute." "I brought peanuts," Anya said. Becky chuckled. "Then we're on for girl talk and snacks tonight." "Girl talk?" Anya asked. Why would Becky want to talk about other girls? Becky made a show of covering her mouth with one hand, shocked that Anya had never heard of girl talk. Then, she gave a knowing smile in the direction of some of the male students. "Speaking of romance, that's your boy, right? Can you believe we're in the same group?" Becky sighed dramatically. "It must be the power of true love." Anya stared blankly at her giddy friend for a moment before turning to follow her gaze. The boy Becky was staring at had wild black hair and a lazy eyes half-closed expression. It was none other than Damien Desmond, the son of Lloyd's target, flanked by his usual pair of flunkies. "What are you looking at, Uggo?" snapped Damien. He fixed Anya with an icy glare as soon as he noticed her looking his way. "I can't believe we're in the same group again." "It's like you're cursed or something, Damien," said one of the flunkies. "The curse of the Werrunt." "You really can't catch a break, boss man," the other flunky agreed with a sigh. "I see Sion's boy's still a jerk," thought Anya. Everyone always called Damien the Desmond Sion, but Anya wasn't sure what that meant or how it was spelled, and his henchmen are jerks too. Just then, the memory of her forgotten mission hit her. Anya choked back her anger and stared Damien straight in the eyes. What do you want?" he stammered, flinching away. "You got something to say to me, peasant?" "I knew I'd be in the same group as you," Anya said, as pleasantly as she could. "Huh?" Damien furrowed his brows in confusion. "Wait, Anya, are you saying..." interrupted Becky, clasping 2 trembling hands over her mouth. Her big eyes glimmered even more than usual. "Are you saying you had total faith that destiny would bring you 2 together like this?" Her voice shot up an octave. "Oh wow, Anya, that is so romantic." "Romantic?" Anya stared at Becky confused. "This is exactly like Berlin in Love," Becky said. "I'm like all choked up right now." Anya had no idea what Becky was going on about, except that Berlin in Love was some sort of TV show that Becky was completely obsessed with. The reason Anya had known that she'd be in the same group as Damien was because she'd read Lloyd's mind and knew he'd snuck into the classroom to change the group assignments. But she couldn't explain that, of course. Ignoring Anya's bafflement, Becky rambled on. "That's so brave of you, Anya. I know that on some level, your feelings have made it through to him." Meanwhile, Damien's face had become as bright red as a boiled octopus. "I don't know what you're on about. Being in the same group as you is like the worst thing that's ever happened to me. As if we have any use for your little stub legs and your stupid face and your creepazoid stalker vibes." How Anya wished she could punch him right now. She was reaching the limits of her self-restraint, her fingers beginning to curl into a fist, when she heard a faint whisper. Not elegant. Somehow, Master Henderson had come up behind them, completely unnoticed. Despite the softness of his rebuke, each of the students immediately snapped to attention. "Mr. Desmond," Master Henderson's soft voice was rich with refinement and majesty, "is uttering such vile insults how a proper gentleman behaves?" Withering under Master Henderson's gaze, Damien could manage little more than a mournful moan in reply, but his thoughts on the matter were more detailed. "Damn it, I can't believe she got me in trouble again. Every time I get mixed up with that Uggo, it explodes in my face. I really am cursed by this Werrunt." Hearing Damien's inner monologue, Anya was taken aback. A mere few minutes into her first interaction with Damien, Operation Camp Friends had already crashed and burned. Looking back and forth between the unrepentant Damien and the dejected Anya, Master Henderson sighed deeply from beneath his snow-white mustache. Now the only job you guys have is to stay the hell out of my way. Is that clear? Damien barked, standing protectively between the girls and the bag of ingredients and cooking tools their group had been given. The night's starlit dinner was scheduled to be prepared by Eden Academy chefs, but each group was responsible for preparing their own lunch, and Damien was taking charge. This may be nature's classroom, but a class is still a class. I can't afford to lose a Stella star because you lot put another black mark on my transcript. I'm a Desmond, and I've got a reputation to uphold. As was often the case, Damien's thoughts were focused on acquiring the 8 Stella stars, Eden Academy's version of merits needed to enter the honors program. Eden also handed out demerits, known as Tonitrus votes. Any student unfortunate enough to collect 8 of those was expelled. I'm gonna make a better lunch than any other group, that's for sure, he concluded. Ignoring his speech entirely, Becky riffled through the ingredient bag. With these, probably the easiest things to make would be a pot of feu, she said. A pot of feu? Anya repeated. Pot of feu, Becky carefully enunciated. We cut up the ingredients, boil them in water, and season with salt and pepper. That's all there is to it. I don't like pepper, Anya said. You are such a child sometimes, Becky sighed. Fine then, we'll hold the pepper for your sake. Anya cheered her approval. Now, I'll start peeling the vegetables, and you. Hey, no one put you in charge of anything, yelled Damien. His face was red with anger, over being ignored by the 2 girls. Oh, shut up, Becky rolled her eyes. You can't just start making important decisions like that. The only task I'd ever trust you with is fetching water and firewood, so just get out of here and be quick about it. No matter how arrogant or bossy Damien became, his 2 flunkies hung on his every word and backed his every order. The long-faced one was named Ewan, and the round-faced, buck-toothed one was named Emil. Yeah, the boss man's right, Emil chortled. I bet you 2 have never even made a fire before. It's obvious that you're both completely useless, added Ewan. The only way for you to help is to not try. Like any of you have ever made a fire before, Becky retorted. Seeming thoroughly bored with the whole affair, the 3 boys burst into laughter, their faces lit up with smug pride. What's that creepy laugh for? Asked Becky. We've gone on nature trips with Mr. Green, boasted Damien. You know, the Costos, who used to be a Marine. So yeah, we can make a fire. So true, boss man. He even took us river rafting. And there were some real intense rapids too, right, Damien? That's right, said Damien, puffing out his chest. Despite his show of pride, the mental image running through Damien's head was of him falling into the river and pleading to be rescued. Anya couldn't help but chuckle. Pretty lame, sound boy. On the other hand, the idea of riding a boat through rapids did sound pretty exciting. I wish I could ride on a boat, she said. Damien snickered. A stubby-legged runt like you couldn't row a boat in the first place. You'd go right over the side. That's a horrible thing to say, even for you, declared Becky. It doesn't even make sense. Her stubby legs have nothing to do with her ability to row a boat. What? Cried Anya. You think my legs are stubby too? Anya understood that Becky was trying to defend her, but her friend's retort left her more depressed than Damien's original insult. Besides, she muttered, Sion's boy's the one who fell out the boat. Her counterattack, barely audible as it was, left Damien startled and flushed. How did you know that? Ahaha, help me. Anya pantomimed Desmond as she recreated the moment from his memories. I'm the scion of the Desmond family. Good. Oh, wow. Did you really fall in? Becky affixed Damien with a pitying gaze. That's so pathetic. Thoroughly flustered, Damien could only muster a fiery glare. After a few seconds, he turned to his flunkies. If you told anyone. We didn't tell a soul, said Emil. You know we'd never do that to you. She just made a lucky guess, said Ewan. Satisfied with the protest and violent head-shaking of his faithless henchman, Damien exhaled a sigh of relief. But the flush in his cheeks remained as he refocused his glare on Anya. I can't believe a dolt like you got me to play right into your hands like that. Anya looked into her hands, confused. She wasn't sure what that meant, but it sounded like she'd won and he'd lost. She went with it. Serves you right, she said. Big words from the 30-point wonder, he shot back. No woman admires a man stuck in the past, Anya said. What the hell's that supposed to mean? Anya wasn't entirely sure herself. I heard Bondman say that, she admitted. The cartoon? Damien said, his voice raised in annoyance. Ugh, grow up. Anya felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had gotten so mad at Damien that she had forgotten to hide her powers, but thankfully, no one had noticed. Becky watched them argue with an expression of delight. Ah, lovey-dovey couples are nice, but there's something extra special about bickering. Will they, won't they romances? It's just like some of the ones on Berlin in Love. Anya didn't know what she was talking about, and when Becky leaned over and whispered into her ear, "Don't worry, I've got this," it didn't clarify matters any. As Anya tilted her head in confusion, Becky addressed the group. "For now, let's divide into teams. One to get water from the river and wash the vegetables, and another to gather wood and start the fire." As Becky spoke, a sly smile spread across her face. "What the hell was that Black Belle girl thinking?" Damien grumbled. "Becky's a good person," Anya said. Anya wasn't sure if Damien was angry because Becky had taken charge or because he was now stuck with Anya. Under Becky's leadership, he'd been assigned to partners with Anya on water duty. Becky had put herself, Emil, and Ewan on fire duty. Nice work, Becky, Anya thought. Thanks to you, Operation Camp Friends is one step closer to success. All she had to do now was earn Damien's respect by showing off how much she knew about camping. She and Yor had read book after book about camping, and Anya was convinced she knew all there was to know on the subject. She proudly stepped in front of Damien, taking the lead on the trail to the river. The faint path through the woods was littered with tree roots and was difficult to traverse, but enduring the rough terrain was a small price to pay for world peace. "Hey, you sure we're going the right way?" Damien asked, idly swinging his water bucket. "Don't worry," Anya said, turning towards Damien with an expression of complete confidence. "I know exactly what I'm doing." "What are you staring at me with that goofy expression for?" Damien asked after a few seconds. "I'm just glad we're on the same team." Damien flushed red, his mouth open and closed like a goldfish, as he tried to find the right reply. "I know you want to be the best at camping, so it'll look good on your school records," she continued, "and I can help you do that." Then, too quietly for Damien to hear, she added, "for the sake of world peace." Damien's thoughts suddenly hit her in an overwhelming jumble. What's the deal? Why she's being so nice all of a sudden? No, she's done this before, acting like she wanted to help me, like she couldn't bear if I got expelled. But why? Is she really just like all the others? Lost in confusion, Damien stared at Anya. Then he felt a strange shiver down his spine. Ugh, I don't feel so good, he thought, and now I'm getting goosebumps. This wasn't the first time Anya's telepathy had elicited this sensation in him, though, of course, Damien didn't know that. Racked with confusion and with weird feelings he couldn't explain, Damien simply stood there and tried to push through them all. "I want to help you," Anya continued. "That's why I studied camping so much." "You?" Damien began, his voice quavering. "No, don't you fall for that." Anya stiffened as a loud voice suddenly echoed in her mind. Her eyes darted around, trying to find its source. It took her a moment to realize the thoughts had been Damien's. Suddenly, the jumble of confusion in Damien's mind had hardened into something cold and stiff. "It's just like Ewan and Emil are always saying," he thought. "She's no different from all the other stuck-ups who are trying to use me to get in my dad's good graces." Huh? Why is Scion boy suddenly thinking about his dad, wondered Anya. Had she messed up the plan somehow? Had she let it slip that her real goal was to get her papa a meeting with his dad? But Damien didn't have superpowers like she did, and Operation Camp Friends had only ever existed in her mind. How could he have known? Anya was flustered. She hadn't anticipated this, and had no idea what to say or do now. It was Damien who finally broke the awkward silence. "Get moving already, slowpoke." Without waiting for a reply, he pushed past her and continued down the trail. Bewildered, Anya chased after him. "How much longer?" Damien grumbled. "It should be just ahead," Anya said, causing Damien to bristle with frustration. He was tired of being told that the river would be around each new bend. They'd been walking for such a long time, and he was growing angrier with each dashed hope. Trying to lighten his mood a bit, Anya showed him a giant worm she discovered, but that only seemed to make him more upset. At this point, even Anya couldn't shake the feeling that they'd been walking for far too long. Ahead of them was nothing but lush green trees for as far as the eye could see. There was no sign of any river. Mr. Green told us to enter the trail at the sign, walk straight, and then turn left at the first fork. Damien grumbled. He said it was so simple that we wouldn't need a map. There's no way this is what he meant. Suddenly, Damien went pale. "You do know your left from your right, don't you?" "Of course I do." "Then raise your left hand," Damien demanded. "Okie dokie." Anya flashed Damien a reassuring smile as her right hand shot up into the air. Damien clutched at his temples with both hands. "That's your right hand, idiot." Anya could almost feel herself shrinking as it finally dawned on her that in her zeal to impress Damien, she'd mixed up her right and left and led them a long way down an incorrect path. The forest fell into a deep silence, broken only by the occasional ominous chirping of some unfamiliar bird. Anya shuddered. Uh, are we lost? She finally asked fearfully. Yes, Damien replied, and it's all your fault. The two stared at each other, neither saying a word. Just then, something rustled in a nearby bush. They both screamed and went rigid with fear, until an adorable bushy-tailed squirrel emerged from the bush. Its cheek puffed out, as if stuffed with something. "Ah," Anya gushed, "a little squirrel." "Man, don't scare us like that," Damien said softly. The tension faded from Anya's face as she gazed at the creature, and Damien took a deep breath of relief. "All right," he said. "Let's get back to camp. We haven't gone all that far, so if we turn around and head back the way we came, we should be able to make it back." "Yeah," Anya said, suddenly remembering that she had in fact taken steps to ensure their safe return. It was a little trick she had learned from one of the books she and Yor had read together. "That should be no problem," she announced. "I've been marking the trail as we walked." "Oh yeah?" For once, Damien actually smiled. "Good thinking." Anya's face lit up at this rare praise. "Pretty good, right? Am I a total camping genius or what?" "No, since you're the one who got us lost in the first place. How have you been marking the trail?" Grinning, Anya reached into the pocket of her tracksuit jacket and proudly pulled out her bag of peanuts. "Good for eating and good for making a trail too." Damien stared at her. Why isn't he saying anything? She'd expected praise, gratitude, maybe even a tear or two. Instead, his shoulders slumped and his jaw went slack. "What's wrong, Scion boy? Are my peanuts making you hungry?" Damien mumbled something under his breath and pointed at the squirrel. Anya turned to look back at the creature. It had just spotted something to eat on the ground and was running towards it, its bushy tail shaking. It disappeared into a patch of grass, then reappeared a moment later, triumphantly holding a peanut in its front paws. In a flurry of crackling, it set about breaking through the shell with its front teeth. Anya was so overcome with the cuteness of what she was seeing that it took her a moment to understand its significance. The squirrel had been following them and eating all the peanuts she'd been dropping. Their trail markers were gone. She cried out in frustration. Startled by the noise, the squirrel abandoned the half-eaten peanut and darted away. "What are we supposed to do now?" Damien demanded. "I'm sure your trail's long gone. Why would you use peanuts of all things? You couldn't think of anything that wouldn't be eaten by literally every bird and animal in the forest, you dummy?" Tears welled up in Anya's eyes. Before long, she was sobbing uncontrollably. When Damien spoke again, his voice was significantly more gentle. "Well, look, it's not like it's that complicated of a trail. I'm sure we can find our way back by retracing our steps." Anya nodded and wiped at her tears. "So come on," he urged. "Let's get going." Just as Anya started to follow, she felt something splat against her forehead. "Water?" She raised her eyes upward and saw through the canopy of leaves that a dark cloud was now blocking out the sky. While they had been busy bickering, she hadn't noticed the forest darkening. "Great," said Damien. "Now it's raining on top of everything else." It didn't take long for the sporadic drops to turn into a downpour, soaking them both. The raindrops were hard and heavy, landing into a barrage of pebbles. It was so intense that they struggled to keep their eyes open. "Hey, keep it together," commanded Damien, as Anya started to sob again. He grabbed her arm and squeezed it tightly, pulling her close to speak in her ear. "I saw a small cave a way back. Let's head there." Without waiting for Anya's reply, he started back up the trail. Despite almost slipping several times on the soaked, muddy earth, the pair managed to find their way to the shallow cave at the base of the cliff. "We'll wait out the rain here and head back as soon as it eases up," Damien said. The two children were sitting side by side in the small cave. "Okie dokie." Anya's voice was tired and small, and her hair and tracksuit were thoroughly soaked. She'd managed to wring out some of the water from her clothes, but her shoes were still squishy, and it was grossing her out. "I'm wet everywhere," she grumbled. "I am too, suck it up," Damien ordered. He reminded her again that it was all her fault. Anya shrunk even smaller. Outside the cave, the sky was still dark, and the heavy rain was showing no signs of letting up. While they were relieved to have found shelter, the endless thundering downpour had left Anya feeling scared and hopeless. Without realizing she was doing it, she inched closer to Damien. "That's close enough," Damien barked, and Anya felt like crying again. "If only Papa was here. If Mama was here, she'd give me a big hug. If Bon was here, he'd lick away all my tears." Anya's mood sunk further with each thought. "Instead, I'm stuck here, alone, with Mr. Old Scion boy." Suddenly, the darkened world went white, like the sudden pop of a flashbulb. Anya squealed and curled into a ball. Something just... Damien's reply was drowned out by a deafening clap of thunder that echoed off the cave walls. Even Damien stiffened at that. Their ears were still ringing when the sky flashed white for a second time. "Aw, come on," he moaned. "How much worse can this get?" The second thunderclap was much louder than the first. The terrifying explosive burst of noise bounced around the cave, and the shock waves made their skin tingle. As the thunder faded, the kids were pretty sure that they could hear the sound of trees falling somewhere nearby. Overwhelmed by fear, Anya could no longer hold back the tears. "Papa, save me," she cried between sobs. "I'm so scared." Rolled up in a ball, she couldn't see beyond her own knees. After a moment, she felt a hand take hold of hers. Look, it's gonna be okay," a voice stammered. The hand was the same size as hers, and shaking just as much. "Lightning hits tall things, right? And there's tons of tall trees around here, way taller than us. And this cave, the rock, is really solid too, so don't be scared, alright?" Anya raised her head and looked up at Damien sitting beside her. His face was as white as a sheet. Even through her own veil of tears, she thought she could see moisture welling around his eyes. Anya heard the stream of thoughts racing through his head. If lightning were to strike here, "Father, I'm so scared. No, I'm a scion of the Desmond family. If I can't protect one crying girl, then what good am I? But this is so scary. No, you can't be scared. Remember, you're father's son." "Huh?" thought Anya. Scion boy's scared of lightning too? But he was still trying to comfort her. The grip of terror on her heart seemed to loosen a bit. Anya gave his hand a squeeze back. Damien turned to her for a second, a look of surprise on his face. He quickly looked away, but there was a little more strength in his grip after that, and his hand stopped shaking. "It's warm," Anya thought. "I'm hungry," Damien said after a while. "I have peanuts," Anya replied. "Anything but peanuts." "I wish I could eat that pot au feu," Anya said, sadly. "Don't bring up stuff like that, dummy. It's just gonna make us hungrier." "I bet Becky's worried about us." "They're all probably on the brink of tears," Damien said, nodding. "I bet the teachers are real mad, though." "Yeah," Damien agreed. "We're getting tonitrus bolts for sure." Though they were both still soaked and shivering, still scared by the unyielding storm, the cave had started to feel somehow warmer. In time, the warmth from Damien's hand spread to Anya's cheeks and dried away her tears. "Mr. Desmond, Miss Forger." When the rain finally stopped, the two children stepped out of the cave to find Mr. Henderson and Mr. Green racing up the path towards them. "Thank goodness you're both all right," said Mr. Green, giving them a relaxed wave. Master Henderson, on the other hand, scowled at them like an angry lion. "The two of you should know better than to wander away from camp," he scolded. "Do you understand that every faculty chaperone is now scouring the forest for you, in the mountains, rain, and lightning are not to be taken lightly? You're lucky that Custodes Green has tracking experience, or who knows what might have happened to you." "Little something I picked up in the Marines," Mr. Green said. "Our special forces team did plenty of tracking. But the rain washed away most of your footprints, so it's something of a miracle I was able to find you at all. You two ought to thank your lucky stars," he flashed the two kids a playful smile. Master Henderson cleared his throat loudly, quieting his overly forgiving colleague. Now, clearly inadequate faculty supervision was also a factor here. No matter how simple the trail, we should have stationed a chaperone at the halfway point, and I do apologize for that. For now, let us return to camp and get you dried off. Then he added ominously, "However, this is not the last time we will be discussing this. I have yet to decide on a suitable punishment for your actions." "Mr. Henderson, wait," Anya said, clinging to her teacher's tracksuit. Master Henderson, I mean." "Yes, Miss Forger?" "I'm really sorry," she pleaded, her head bowed. "I'm the one who's bad at maps and got us lost. Scion boy didn't do anything wrong, so please don't punish him." "Yeah, we get it, Runt. Stop acting so noble." Damien stepped forward to stand at Anya's side. "As your partner, it was my job to check if we were going the right way, and I didn't. I'm just as much to blame as you are." Turning to Master Henderson and Mr. Green, he bowed his head. "I am truly sorry for all the trouble I've caused." Anya looked at him confused. "Scion boy?" Damien snorted. "It'd be a stain on my honor as a Desmond if I let you cover for me," he muttered. The back of his neck flushed a light pink. Mr. Green gave Master Henderson an amused look. "Well, what do you say, Master Henderson?" Master Henderson stood quietly for a moment, the clenched expression on his face gradually softening. "Perhaps it is not necessary that we discuss this matter again," he said. "As punishment, you two will help with the preparations for tonight's stargazing activity. But first, you will go back to camp, shower, and change into dry clothes." And with that, he turned elegantly away from the children. His thoughts, however, continued to flow into Anya's mind from behind his perfectly postured back. Certainly, disobeying the class rules and endangering their own lives with such careless behavior is worthy of a harsher punishment, Master Henderson mused. But there was much beauty and elegance in the way Mr. Desmond and Miss Forger sought to protect each other. Despite his sternness, Anya could sense Master Henderson's kindness and joy in his student's growth. Anya dared to ask the question, "So no tonitrus bolts?" As I just said, there will be no further punishments. Therefore, no tonitrus bolts will be assigned. Do not make me repeat myself again." Relieved, Anya turned towards Damien with a smile. But despite the similar glimmer of relief she saw on his face, he snapped at her. "What are you grinning about? Thanks to you, I'm gonna have to work all afternoon." To himself more than her, he mumbled, "The curse of the runt got me again." Just like that, Damien was back to his old awful self. She could sense the feeling of warmth he'd briefly held for her rapidly chilling. "You really are the worst," she said. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I was grateful to you, but you weren't grateful back," Anya said. "You cheated me. So go cry about it, Uggo. You're a jerk, Scion boy." "Enough of that," interrupted Mr. Green, his voice uncharacteristically tired. He shrugged and sighed deeply. "You're gonna be at each other's throats for the whole trip. No one's even eaten yet. They've been so worried about you, too. Hurry over and show them you're okay, so you can put their minds at ease." His tone wasn't harsh, but Anya could see the frustration he was holding in check. "Look there, children," instructed Master Henderson. "The storm has left you a parting gift." Following their teacher's fingers, Anya and Damien looked upward, towards the bright sky, that looked as though it had been washed clean by the rain. Their eyes widened in unison as they gazed upon the dazzling rainbow set upon a patch of clear blue sky. When the bus dropped her off at the building where she lived, Anya didn't immediately open the door to her lobby. Instead, she paced up and down the sidewalk. Operation Camp Friends was a failure. She wasn't looking forward to having to say it out loud. "Woof!" A white fluffy blur suddenly leapt at Anya, knocking her to the ground. Her dog's tail was wagging so vigorously that Anya worried it might just go flying off. "Bond, woof!" he answered, licking at her cheeks with his warm, tickly tongue. A few steps behind Bond, Lloyd came running up. "Oh, Anya, you're home." Apparently Bond had foreseen Anya's return while they'd been on a walk, and was so excited he pulled free of Lloyd's grasp. "Welcome back," Lloyd said. "We weren't expecting you here so early." "Yeah," Anya said, avoiding Lloyd's gaze. "I'm back." Lloyd raised an eyebrow. "Is something wrong? You look upset." "The world is doomed," Anya reported sadly. "The world?" Lloyd repeated. "I was really bad at camping," Anya explained. Her shoulders slumped. "A squirrel ate my trail, and I confused my right and left." It was clear from the look on Lloyd's face that he had no idea what she was talking about. "You didn't have fun?" he asked. Anya remembered the birds and bugs and trees and flowers, and she'd never seen before. She remembered the bright rainbow and blue sky after the storm, and enjoying their homemade pot au feu with Becky and the others, gazing up at the sparkling stars with all her classmates, gossiping with Becky while eating her fancy chocolates in their bright white tent, the warmth of Damien's hands as it held hers. "No," she said, startled by this revelation. "I had a lot of fun." "Is that right?" Lloyd said, the taut muscles in his handsome face easing into a smile. "I'm so glad." Anya's heart suddenly cleared, and her feet felt lighter. "We'll head on inside then," Lloyd said. "Yours been waiting for you." "Okie dokie. She's been cooking for you all morning," Lloyd said. "There's hamburger steak and even a cake." "Okie dokie," Anya repeated, but with far less enthusiasm, as she recalled the weapons-grade cuisine Yor had cooked in the past. This could be my last meal. Recognizing the look of someone preparing to meet their death, Lloyd leaned over and whispered reassuringly, "Don't worry, I helped her cook. In fact, I did just about everything. The only thing she made by herself was the southern stew, and I know that's your favorite." "Woohoo!" Anya's enthusiasm was authentic this time, and suddenly she was very, very hungry. "I want to go inside and eat Mama's stew and Papa's hamburger steak and watch TV with Bond right now." "Come on, Bond," Anya called. "Woof! You too, Papa, I'm hungry." "How quickly she changes her mind," Lloyd muttered. Urging Papa and her beloved dog to hurry after her, Anya raced towards the apartment where Mama was waiting.